Hi, my name's Kim J and I'm a volunteer for RNIB. I'm also a visually impaired chef. I've wrote 2 cookery books, A Taste of Spice and A Sense of Cooking, which are in large print, and all profits going to RNIB. Now Christmas is coming. I know what you're going to say. It's too soon to hear that word, but the thing with Christmas is you can prepare things in advance, and one of the things that I prepare in advance is a Christmas cake. Now for my particular Christmas cake, I use different variations of fruit, but you can change it depending on your taste. But for mine, I use 250 grams of currants, 250 grams of mixed fruit, 300 grams of sultanas, 275 grams of plain flour, 125 grams of apricot, the dried apricots, 250 grams of dark or light muscovado sugar, 250 grams of butter, the grated rind of an orange or a tangerine, 5 eggs, 75 grams of almonds powder, 200 grams of glacé cherries. And I also need a teaspoon of cinnamon, a teaspoon of mixed spice, about half a teaspoon of nutmeg, almond essence, and a tablespoon of maple syrup and alcohol. Now, the alcohol, again, depends on your taste. I use a mixture of red wine and brandy. I love brandy. But you can use rum, whiskey, vodka. And if you don't want the alcohol, don't worry. Use Vimto. That works just as well. And those are my ingredients for this amazing Christmas cake. Now, a Christmas cake is done in different stages over a period of weeks. Now, the first stage is to soak all this lovely fruit into the alcohol. Now, you can do it for about 3 to 7 days. Some people do it longer, but I kind of like to do it for at least 3 to 7 days. Once that's done, I will then actually bake the cake. And then over the period of the few weeks leading up to Christmas, I will feed the cake with the alcohol. And after that, once all that's done, a few days before Christmas, I will then ice the cake and decorate it. This bit is the bit I love the most. It's mixing all the fruit together. So I've got the mixed fruit and I'm going to put it either in a large mixing bowl or a large saucepan. So I put the mixed fruit in and I'm going to put the currants and the sultanas in. And I'm now going to put the glacé cherries in. Now, I've managed to find green cherries as well as red cherries. It doesn't really matter. You can have all red cherries, but I think for Christmas, I like it to look special for those that can actually see. So the cherries go in there and the apricots. Now, if you like figs or dates, you could chop 50 grams of figs or dates in this as well. Totally up to you on the quantities and the type of fruit that you want to use. Now into that, I'm going to put the grated rind of that orange and about a teaspoon of the mixed spice, and already it smells like Christmas. It is heavenly. And I'm going to put about half a teaspoon of the almond essence. If you don't like almond essence, again, knock it out. You don't need to have it. And now I'm going to put a tablespoon of the maple syrup. And that just gives it this lovely, rich, golden taste once it's cooked. Now comes the alcohol. Now, like I said, if you don't want to put alcohol in just do. You can either get the non-alcoholic wine that they sell, or you could use, like I said, Vimto, or even orange juice. Now, I'm putting in approximately 50 mils of the brandy. And now I'm going to put the red wine. Don't be tempted to use white wine, make it red wine. And you want it so that the fruit is well and truly covered. This is about half a bottle of red wine will go into there. And then you stir it. And already you can smell those flavours. Oh gosh, this is Christmas. A bit more red wine. And you stir. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put either a foil paper or cling film or a lid on this pan, and I am going to leave it to soak for at least 3 to 7 days. And every so often I'll come into the kitchen and I'll give it a stir, and I'll just mix that alcohol up. And if the alcohol looks as if it's starting to dry up, just add a little bit more. It needs the alcohol. It's the liquid that will plump up that dried fruit and make this cake so utterly delicious. I've soaked this fruit in the red wine and brandy for 3 days, and it smells amazing. You can smell the wine, the nutmeg, the mixed spice. It is Christmas. Now I put it into a very large pan and put it on the hob. Now into this pan I'm going to put the brown sugar and the butter, and we're going to melt all of that down and simmer it for 5 minutes. And once it's simmered for 5 minutes and everything has melted and mixed together, I'm going to switch it off, and then I'm going to leave it to cool for half an hour. Whilst the fruit is cooling down, I switch the oven on to 150 degrees and I'm going to weigh out my ingredients. Now I've done the flour, I'm going to weigh out the almonds, and I'm going to use one of my favourite essential kitchen equipment, which is my talking kitchen scales. Very easy to use, and it has different measurements. So not only does it have pounds and grams, it also has liquid measurements.
Ounce, gram.
And I'm going to weigh out 75 grams of this almond powder.
It is 46 grams. It is 67 grams. It is 80 grams. It is 75 grams.
And it's that simple to use. Having weighed out all my ingredients, I have now prepared the cake tins. Now you'll need a cake tin approximately 23-24 centimetres in diameter, round shape, rectangular shape, whichever one you want. Preferably one that has like a spring back on it, which means it's easy to open from the sides. Now what I've done is I've greased the bottom and the sides, and I've put baking parchment on it. Now normally when I make a cake I only use one layer of baking parchment, but because the fruit cake has a lot of sugars, not only from the sugar that you put in but from the natural fruit and the alcohol, you need more layers of baking parchment to protect it, to stop it from catching and burning. So I put 3 layers of baking parchment, greasing each layer and building it up. Now because I'm a little bit greedy, I'm not going to use a 23 centimetre tin. I'm going to use an 18 centimetre tin and a little one, which is about 8 centimetres. And that's because I can eat the little one now, because I can't wait till Christmas for this cake. The fruit has cooled down, and now I'm going to mix everything into the fruit. I'm using the same pan because it's nice and large, and you don't need to transfer it into another bowl. Now this is such an easy recipe. Now the first thing I'm going to put is the ground almonds. Now if you've got a nut allergy, omit the nuts in this. You don't need to put the nuts in. So I'm stirring it. I'm now going to add a little bit of flour, and again mix. A little bit of egg, not all at once, just a little bit. Again, mix. And then a little bit more flour. And you keep doing this until all the milk and the egg has been mixed into this mixture. I've stirred in the flour and eggs. Now the consistency of this mixture is kind of sort of sloppy. Now if you put some on your ladle and you drop it, and it drops immediately, you need some more flour. Now the reason you need more flour is because it depends on how much alcohol you put in and whether it's soaked it up. So I would put approximately 2 or 3 tablespoons extra flour in, stir it in, and then let's see what the consistency is like. Again, I'm going to do the drop test, and you can feel it sort of drop. And again, now it's taking time to drop, so that's the right consistency. Now at this stage, I smell the mixture. If you can smell the spices, the mixed spices and the nutmeg and the cinnamon, it needs to be subtle. Not a strong hit, but a subtle hit. And if you can't smell it, add a little bit more spice. And also add a couple of more drops of almond flavouring. Mix it all up. And now you fill the cake tin that you've already prepared. I filled these tins up. I had a little bit left over, so I put it in another little smaller bun case so that it doesn't get wasted. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into the oven with a greaseproof paper on top. Again, it's going to protect this cake. Now it does cook for a while, so it's a slow cook at 150 degrees. I've had these cakes in the oven. Now for the one that is sort of approximately 18 centimetres in diameter, it's been in the oven for about 2 hours 10 minutes. The one that was 8 centimetres was in the oven for about an hour and a half, and the little one was in the oven for an hour. Now for a 22, 23, 24 centimetre cake tin, you're looking at approximately 2.5 hours. I would always check the cake at the 1 hour mark, and then sort of after that every 15 minutes depending on how it's done. Now the cake is firm, and to test it you just put a knife into the centre of it and it should come out perfectly clean. It is firm and you can feel how moist it is. Right, I'm going to try it. And this is why I made a smaller one, so I could do this. Take a slice out of there, and it is soft, perfectly cooked. And as I've cut through it, you get that impact of the spices and the alcohol. That is amazing. Even though we haven't fed it and matured it, it is still moist. So I'm now going to show you how we mature and feed the cake, getting ready for Christmas. I made this cake mid-October. Now I will feed it once a week till the middle of November, brushing in the top and the sides. And then after the middle of November, I will start feeding it twice a week until the end of November. And in the first 2 weeks of December, I will feed it 3 times a week. Then for that last week before Christmas, I will feed it every single day until it's time to ice and decorate. Now I've fed this cake, and I'm going to put the lid on and make sure that you keep this cake upright in a nice cool place, and you don't move it about too much. Now the week before Christmas is when we decorate it, so we will need ready rolled marzipan and ready rolled icing. If you can't get ready rolled, just the ordinary sort of block will do, but I always find, especially being visually impaired, that the ready rolled ones are better, and you will start to find them in the supermarkets around about December. And some nice ribbon to go around the cake and some decorations, and that will be done the week before Christmas. Now you have a recipe for a great dish, but when you're in the kitchen there are certain safety guides and rules that you should adhere to, and which keeps you safe. Now one of the things that I do before I start cooking is I make sure that I've got shoes on that are sturdy with good grips. I make sure that there's nothing on the floor that I can trip over, and there are no spillages or liquid or condensation on the floor that makes it a bit of a hazard. Now, before cooking, the first thing that you do, as we all know, is wash our hands thoroughly. And especially when you're dealing with raw meat at every stage, wash your hands thoroughly. It stops cross-contamination. It keeps you and your family safe. When you're using the oven and the hob, know your oven and hob really well. Now, I use tactile markings so that I know exactly what temperature to put the oven on and what setting, so that I've not put the grill on when I should be putting the oven on. Now, with the hob, whenever you're sort of putting anything on the hob, make sure the handle is not sticking out. Now, I like to keep the handle at approximately 10 to 12. And the reason for that is it's not near enough to the unit for you to accidentally knock it off. It is not over another hob which may be on, so the handle's getting hot. So this is the safest position. Now, if you're boiling anything, be very, very careful. Don't fill the pan up too much. And if possible, use the boiler alert, which tells you when that liquid is bubbling away and it's hot, and it keeps you safe. If you're not comfortable with the hob and the oven, use the microwave whenever you can. It's a lot safer. And every time you are taking things out of the oven or from the microwave, because remember, plates and dishes get extremely hot in the microwave, use oven gloves. Now, I like to use thermal oven gloves. They're a lot safer. Don't be tempted to use tea towels or anything else. And they literally go to extreme temperatures, so you're very safe with them. Whenever you cut any food in the kitchen, use safe cutting methods. Keep the blade away from your fingers, so set it a couple of millimeters away from your fingers, and that way you're safe all the time. Now, if you're not confident with a knife, you can use appliances like food processors. Make sure you know how they work properly, and keep safe. And if you're still not confident, ask somebody else to do it. It is better to be safe than have an injury. If you have any cuts or you cut yourself whilst you're in the kitchen, put a plaster on it. And if you have a burn, run it under cold water. And if it's bad, you seek medical advice straight away. Whenever you cook meat, always ensure that the meat is thoroughly cooked, because you know, raw meat will give you food poisoning. Now, the best optimum temperature to cook meat is between 66 degrees and 73 degrees. Use a food thermometer if you're not too sure. They do have talking food thermometers, which you can get quite easily. And you store the meat as soon as you can. As soon as it's cooled down, store it straight away in the fridge and read the advice on storage on the labels.